Public policy formation and analysis processes. The policymaking process. 5 stages of the policy process. The 5 main stages that make up the policy process and as brought out by James Anderson include identification of the problem, formulation of the policy, adoption of the policy, administration or implementation, and evaluation. The first stage, problem identification, is the point at which the need for a policy is identified. The policy formulation phase is whereby an effective solution for the identified problem is developed. Policy adoption entails establishing supporting evidence for the solutions given to allow for the policy to be endorsed. Policy implementation, on the other hand, entails incorporating the policy into the identified problem, while evaluation involves assessing the effectiveness of the implemented policy. Government actors in the United Arab Emirates that play the most important role in each stage of the policy-making process. The UAE President has a key role in policy setting. Other main players involved are those that make up the Executive Council. These include the chairmen of different ministries and departments such as the Abu Dhabi Electricity and Water Authority, the Crown Prince Court, the Finance Department, the Tourism Authority, the Civil Service Department, the Health Authority, the Executive Affairs Authority, Planning and Economy, Transport, Municipalities, and Agriculture Department among others. Other members of the Council are the Abu Dhabi Police GHQ's Deputy Commander-in-Chief and the Finance Department. Policy process and policy analysis. How the policy process differs from policy analysis. The policy process involves identifying the need to come up with a given policy, developing the policy, enacting it, and assessing its effectiveness. Policy analysis, on the other hand, involves identifying the key decision-makers, defining the agenda, and policy implementation. Assessment of the situation before a policy is implemented is also done during policy analysis. Questions asked in studies of the policy process and policy analysis. Some of the questions asked during the policy process include why policies keep changing, why some problems are more focused on than others, or how policy choices are made. Questions asked during policy analysis include, what should be done, what possible solutions to a given problem exist, and which policy option should be chosen. Purposes of studies. The policy process is important in such a way that it provides a range of major choices from which decision-makers are able to choose the best solution or strategy that will help in solving a given problem. On the other hand, policy analysis provides a means through which information collected is analyzed and synthesized to come up with a policy decision's outline as well as to identify the various policy-related needs that may arise in the future. Policy analysis is seen as a way of giving advice. Focus of researchers. While policy process researchers focus on the problems that need to be addressed, and on the development of a policy to change a situation or solve a problem, those dealing with policy analysis focus on the policy at hand. Research on the policy process focuses on political power. The process requires that problems should be identified, and solutions sought. Policy analysts' main focus is on information that could be important in the formulation of a given policy. Policy analysis is the client-focused and therefore works towards ensuring that the client's needs are met. Approaches to policy analysis. Challenges to rationalist policy analysis posed by post-positivists. According to rationalists, policy analysis is possible through the use of systematic techniques. This depicts policy analysis as an instrument or tool through which logical decisions can be made with the aim of solving a specific problem. The two major challenges to rationalists are those to do with the authenticity and generalization of the done research study for the identified policy. According to post-positivists, the approach is not just unworkable but is also based on assumptions that are not realistic at all. The assumptions are said to be invalid in terms of the actual world. According to them, the approach cannot, for example, be effectively applied within the public sector due to the complexity of the occurring problems. In this case, the main problems for rationalists' process of making policies lie in problem definition and in its practice of application. While rationalist policy analysis focuses on the current situation and the explanation for the situation, post-positivism focuses on solutions that can address the situation. Ethics in policy analysis. During policy analysis, there are a number of instances where analysts may be faced with issues likely to obscure their ethical process of making decisions. In certain instances, the requirements of the client may not fall in line with those of the analyst in terms of ethics and required standards. In this case, the analyst has three main options, namely, exit, voice, or disloyalty. Possible options. If asked to perform an unethical policy analysis, I would consider taking one of the three options. Voice entails working with the aim of changing the situation from the inside. It also refers to airing out one's grievances to another person. In this case, I would consider protesting or leaking the information to a higher authority by writing a complaint letter. Exit refers to leaving the job. In this case, I would choose to resign or give an ultimatum to the client. I would, for example, ask the client to either let me do what is ethical or I quit working for him or her. I would also threaten to report the issue if the client does not allow me to work under the necessary ethical principles. Disloyalty, on the other hand, involves challenging the client's position. Here, I would choose to leak the information given by the client or disclose it to a higher authority. Choices between the options if my client was my supervisor in the government compared with if my client was a representative from a private interest seeking a policy decision from the government. If my client were to be a supervisor in the government, then I would choose to exit as it would be difficult to reach out to a higher authority through voice or disloyalty. However, if the client were to be a representative in a private firm, then I would consider using voice or disloyalty, as through this, I can report to the client's seniors who would then investigate and take the required action.